crazy period. So hopefully you could bear with me. So we got a pretty interesting show ready to roll for you guys on today, week 3 debrief. And it's been a very Oh, you got one too?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Oh shit. Kyung Ho got one too. I woke up this morning and I saw his I don't know what he posted, but it seems like he got one too. I was very happy.
Pushing on the merch. This
Yeah,
is not
I realized that I actually really hate Kanye West because he reminds me too much of myself, and I'm jealous because he dated Kim Kardashian, and I used to talk about him a lot. And I realized that because because like Khan said, like John transcended Bruce Lee, and from the realization perspective that even though I look up to Ronnie Coleman and Dennis Rodman, I'm actually his master from the realization perspective. And I realized that I'm Kanye West's master, bitch.
Are we doing a podcast right now?
I know. I woke up and I cried for the first time in a while. It feels so great. And I just try to like play some music to sustain it.
Crying for no reason, or there's any particular reason?
I think there's like 4 different reasons that I could see. Like I kind of listed out. One is maybe the conversation with Chen yesterday. I was Mei Chen yesterday at the cafe sit when he said that, Frank, you always cared. And then I started thinking about the cohorts. Like I actually care about like each one of you a lot. And I started crying. And another reason is because I had a conversation with Pippa like 2 days ago for the first time since the bootcamp started. She said she got really triggered because I started talking about like how I like young girls, like the younger the better. And then she was like, and you were talking about your dad as if like it was justifying his behavior. And I was just thought about my dad, like with his family and stuff. And the third reason is because the dream I had a really crazy dream. It was one of the dreams I actually remember for the first time in like years. And then the fourth reason is my partner is doing her first ayahuasca ceremony right now, same time with Frederick. And all these things is just like I see the echoing effect, and I just started crying. And then I was a question of like last cohort when we started. This cohort was like, "Oh, Frank, let's see how much bodhicitta you have. You still care about these like sausages in this cohort." And I realized that just listening to the cafes, not the cafe, yesterday after the cafe, I hopped on the campfire, and then at the end it was just Tim and Juan just chatting, and I felt really touched by that. Yeah. I also said I really like, going to hell without suffering is heaven. And Mitch was like, "Man, you don't know how much you love afflictions, Frank." They're like, "Yeah, I love that shit." But he's like, "I think people underestimate how powerful you are, how strong you are. That's why you can go to hell without suffering now." All right, sorry. We can save that for the next.
I think you set up the mood very interesting for today's conversation.
I think so. This is all related. I know.
Which is
and actually the first thing I woke up to do was I texted Pippa on Discord. I was like, I actually want to go see you at 7B a lot, but I don't want to make things even more complicated between her and her like partner. That's why I don't go.
So I was about to say that there's a lot of these angles that we can discuss that probably comes after the breakout room. From now until then, yeah, we because we also got a lot of stuff to also cover with the cohort, but I do want to generate a space for this kind of vulnerability from Frank or from whoever to also show up in the breakout room or in the panel discussion after that. And regarding today, let me start the show by sharing my screen. So week 3, week 3, I guess the title that I find most suiting is Making Meanings Out of Thin Air. As regarding to what's going on with us in training for this week. So actually, I would like to start with an activity, and today we'll do some activities together and see how this process of meaning making can be demonstrated even through our conversation today, and kind of debriefing a lot of the points that has been covered, the topics that has been discussed throughout the training weeks. So the first activity is actually an art analysis. So this is a picture. Please, you guys, I would like maybe us to write down 7 words from your impression with this picture, and you can send that in the chat, or you can write down on your own note, but let's do it in the chat so that we can also know what one another is, how you're making meaning out of this picture. Any impression, could be any word. Jace, can you read out loud these words for us?
Okay.
Are we typing right now?
Yep.
Frank says Georgie. With view refinement. Ronnie. Luminous Heart by Chun Hong.
Luminous heart.
Mm.
All right.
Heart.
Oh, I thought you said luminous nut. Luminous nut.
Heart.
Like a
Night
nutty in
reading
itself,
candlelight.
intellectual power.
All days, Christine. Team Bui seeking enjoyment dim lit.
Night reading candlelit all days, seeking enjoying dim lit, chilling downtown,
Adrian
cabin live.
toying. Yeah, Alex, young hustler on a Friday night. Michael, the dark, pensive, cozy, rustic. No electricity, so helping with help of fire. That's so Asian. Okay.
I mean, it's so crazy. Each one of these words that you guys put out generate like all these webs
Juan
of
says,
like,
curiosity
words.
reading, campfire, wood, a lot of wool, coal. A lot of wood, sorry. A lot of wood. And this is making me duck.
Oh, somebody doing own sea only. Cozy campfire collective, congruently cracking certain code. CC, cottage contemplation. Nice.
L'Oreal, a warm rustic autumn hobbit.
Hobbit. Okay.
Yeah. Katrina, death, rebirth, silent, melancholy, intention. Will, starting new adventure after long, long day. Manuel, warm, movement, fuzzy, academy, eating, dynamic, friendship.
Okay, this is great. So, okay, Sergio, relax, reading, looking for solitude. So this is the first impression. This is the first layer of meaning that we just laid out as the foundation of how we're interacting with this piece. Let's see the next piece of information, how it's going to change the way you look at this painting. This is actually a depiction of Lincoln in his boyhood. Now, with that piece of information, what's the word that come up for you now?
Frank, the white power slave zombie. Sunday.
Yeah, especially if after the first 7 words you generate a type of title, see how that title would change now.
Xavier learning the law, the team. Studying log cabin Christian by Christian. No one else have any thoughts about Lincoln. History does warm violence woodlock. Readers are leaders. Michael, that's another. This is
so secondary school
Tyson.
coded.
Yeah, Learning the law to run the empire. And well, the curiosity about the big world around me. U.S. empire patriotic history, Juan. Calm before the storm, Kristen.
Yeah, so we got a lot more empire, a lot of more ruler, a lot of more law. Suddenly now that Lincoln is involved, and now the entire way of we changing this. There's somebody's also saying savior. There's also like calm before the storm because we collectively know how his life would unfold after that. What kind of accomplishment, what kind of challenge he would come up against. And suddenly now this boy, we can see the trajectory of his life and a depiction of in this moment, does he know how much challenging is waiting for him? Or if he does know and he still do it anyway, what does that say about his character? Or if he doesn't know, what does that say about life and these kind of choices of you if you just continue to lean in and put yourself out there in that way, what would happen? So there's so many different ways that we interpret these kind of painting and the meaning, and the context of it changes as we know more about it. Now, the last piece of information on this will be that this painting was actually painted only 3 years after his assassination. So it's not a contemporary piece of people looking back to Lincoln from a very long distance in time. It was actually right around when his legacy was maybe not even like fully understood. It was just only 3 years. And yet this is the perspective that, I mean, at least one artist feel compelled enough to paint this at that time. So then we can see that whether that brings out Lincoln's humanity, whether that brings out the sense of the American dream, the dream of ideal, fighting for justice, freedom, and liberty, or whatever that texture is, and how they want to memorialize that through this painting and through this celebration of his accomplishment.
Untarnished hope, Janai says.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a really cool exercise.
Yeah.
Katrina says, an ending already happening.
Will say, wisdom starts young in those with greatness. Yeah. So this exercise that we just did essentially is the type of scaffolding for us to interpret and go deeper with these layers of meanings. Because I understand that if you guys are kind of like me, when we look at certain classical work or painting, we don't even know how to begin to dissect or actually enjoy this piece of media. And we're just like, oh, that's a painting of a boy. That's it. But if we actually slow down and allowing our impression to form, like, okay, the vibes, the coziness, this kind of rusticness to it, this kind of maybe like definitely not well off, right? This sense of a humble beginning. But then knowing then the next piece of information of what kind of height that he climbed in his life, now that generate a very different experience with the painting. And then comes with a context of how this painting was produced in the first place. Now also generate even other people's perspective, other people's feelings about this subject matter, Lincoln. So in that way, similarly to how we see meaning making, we can notice that this contemplation about how do new contexts reshape your meanings, how there's constantly a reflipping of what you take to be what's going on, what you take to be myself, my story, my narrative. New emotions, similar past experience would now generate a different kind of meanings for you. And a lot of us, I know we talked to Manuel yesterday about how he feels that what he takes to be the path has been increasingly invalidated in this week. What it takes to be like true, the practice is just that, reshape meanings, because now you got new context, you got new language, you got new ways to frame the situation. But a lot of us.
Oh, yeah, that's a good question. What is the actual title of the painting?
I think it's Boyhood of Lincoln. Yeah. But a lot of us, instead of like going through this kind of experience of like, oh, okay, allowing the becoming, right? Allowing the becoming of this painting to reveal itself, somewhat of like a leisure, um, maybe enjoyable way. When the becoming of our experience, we don't like it. Like, what's going on? What is the element? What I gotta do? Like instead of allowing these deeper layers to naturally become and then concretize into a birth, and then the next one and the next one and the next one, if we think what was previously taken to be true, if we think that is already the case, now when it continues to become, we want to stop that. We want to know, what about this way of looking at the thing that I've cherished so much? I don't want to let go. Just imagine like in this picture of like, if I were to suggest like, okay, write down 7 words, generate a title, and then I reveal like Boyhood of Lincoln, and you're like, no, that's not Boyhood of Lincoln. Like, okay, like I mean, sure, but that's also works. But I mean, I like it when it's just a rustic boy in a cabin. I don't want Lincoln in here. Like, but okay, so then you don't fully get the historical context of the painting, and you prefer the other meaning over this one.
Mm. That kind of remind me of like when somebody reveals to you maybe your previous incarnations, and then
Yeah,
the whole
yeah.
meaning of your life changes.
The whole meaning of life changes. Yeah.
Yeah, but then it's like,
Mm.
okay, how do I contend with that? Do I carry out the mandate of this incarnation without the identification to even that meaning, that story? Or do I just ignore it, like refuse to see it? Those two different
So many
things.
ways, right? We got previous incarnation, we got an previously hidden childhood trauma that you don't remember, and now you remember. How does
Mm.
recontextualize that? Now you remember that you were treated in a certain way, or like an experience that you thought, wait,
Mm.
oh, I think my family is not right to do that to me, or
Dude,
those kind of
that's
moments.
crazy, bro. Yeah, yeah. When you just said that, when you
Mm.
listed those pictures, I just realized like I have like deep abandoning issues actually, and that's why I dissociate even from you guys. Yeah.
Shit,
And
it's deep.
because of my dad's, yeah, it's pretty deep. And I was kind of like typing on my log describing what this abandonment issue will look like. It was personalized into form. It would probably look like hairy and covering like menstruation blood and semen, with like traces of wings, arms, and legs that were severed. I think hipsters like to call
Mm.
that like that kind of sculpture like organic. And he has like no eyes, no tongue, no ear, no nose, no brain, but it's sentient. It could really feel. Yeah, you could feel like, really deeply. Something
Mm.
like, and then I wanted to like cut open that wound and see what's the wound inside that womb. Maybe it's like hard, you know. Maybe it's like squishy on the outside, but deeper you go inside, the harder it gets. And I want to cut it open, cut the skin open, take out the squishy stuff, use a scalpel, and then you find what's inside. It's infinitely big and infinitely small. It's so tiny, also like a tiny ball, really hard. You just keep cutting and cutting
Mm.
it. And that kind of remind me of like when my videos go like meta, right? Like screen after screen out of the screen. And my dad does that with fucking whole families, dude. Like family after family. It's so fucking meta.
Yeah.
And then that kind of also like reminds me of like how some specific members probably I have to contend with that. Like some people can't come back here because of there's some abandonment issues there too. And then I was like, man, I don't want to abandon you, man, because I was abandoned. But at the same time, I'm gonna abandon you because I was abandoned.
Yeah. It's own hands in samsara are dirty. Nobody's.
But I love it though.
But okay. So then, precisely as we're noticing these things, is that the dynamic point of view changes the meaning. Like what position you take when you interact with a phenomenon changes the way that phenomena is interpreted, right? It's just different lens, different frames, different ways you contextualize it completely changes. And these points of view continue to be changed. But the problem is
Mm,
we resist the transformation of the point of view. We
mm.
want it to be look a certain way. Never before we got all the kind of ism, right? We got fundamentalism, we got only kind of ism that they just want to stick to a point of view. Whatever the point of view that is, to become a different ism, right?
Yeah, that reminded me of like Rob Barbia's book. It's all about ways of looking, like seeing that freeze. And I remember like before when I studied art, there was a lot of books about looking. Like as humans, like our visual perception is kind of like one of our weapons, or like cheetah speed.
Yeah.
And then this ways of
But
looking is what
yeah,
makes us human. Yeah.
I guess there's a very nuanced point here is like before even we can perceive like how we snap on a lens and we look and we perceive from the lens, right? We're talking about
Formation already started.
yeah, formation is already the lens making
Yeah.
process.
The
So
meaning making
like
is there
even before
before they're
perception,
looking. That's
yeah,
crazy.
before you have a point of view, can you see how that point of view is becoming through the air element? You see how that the belief system is booting up, booting up, booting up into a worldview.
Mm, mm. Before you even have a point of view, that point of view already has a point of view. And that generate your point of view, and it's like you think that's your point of view, but
There's already a reference point that has been fabricated.
Yeah.
And how that's fabricated is actually what we're doing here. Because most of us can't even see how that's fabricated, and then when we try to fabricate another view to like either counter I guess either going against that view or reaffirm that view, but it's actually the same thing. It's still coming from the
Taylor,
same
you are mute for a second.
same concavity.
No, by accident.
No.
Okay.
Yeah. But essentially what we're pointing out here is that at week 3, we're starting to touch on this point of view, and it can feel very destabilizing because now you literally feel naked and vulnerable because you're seeing with a completely different point of view. You're asked to see how that point of view changes, how it is, what is it based on, like what do you take to be the foundation of your view? Like, oh, I believe this because this thing is definitely true.
It's like your reference point now has no reference.
But like, yeah, before we even can get into view refinement, which is really the scope of the later weeks, now we're just noticing the point of view so that we can notice the view before we do view refinement. Right now, we just start at the beginning of starting to like, okay, do you see how there's a formation of your perspective? Do you see there's formation that makes you want to cling to a certain position? That position could be, well, realization should look like this. That position should be, oh, the world is just fundamentally out there, and I have this internal world that is inside, that is invisible. Whatever that point of view is, whatever the perspective is.
Or the emptiness is ... is something.
Yeah. So then Mei Chang and many of the instructors, many of the mentors have commented about if you make emptiness into like a point of view, then we lost the plot. Like, then you just have the point of view that say it's not the point of view. Now we're just super confused.
Yeah. When during one of the cool downs, I think Thursday mentioned that if you try to look for emptiness, that's not it. If you try to rest as emptiness or try to rest, try to
In nature of mind,
as
yeah, that's
emptiness,
not nature of mind.
it. Yeah. But at the same time, it's not apart from that either. Yeah.
So we're getting to this kind of territory that's quite tongue twisting, view bending, kind of like what's going on, and so it's all not up in our conceptual landscape.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah. Yeah, because then I realized like all these like screens out of screen, like my first video is like just screen out of screen, screen. It's like, why do I do that? Always do that. It's like
It's like as
trying to
confusing
Yeah.
as confusing as the number of the type of sexuality you can identify with these days.
Yeah, it just keeps going, right? It just keeps going.
Yeah.
It's like this like intrinsic need to constantly go out of a view, but then there's another view, and then it's going insane. But you just be okay. That's the becoming actually. It's like you can like zoom out of your entire view, and then it's still become. It's just. But that's the beauty of becoming, I think.
Yeah. So I guess one of the objective for learning in this week is fundamentally at the baseline, we are all looking how we are generating these meanings and how with new information through either our sit, our reflections, our contemplation, in the session or out of the session, how we constantly recontextualize our experience. But if we resist this recontextualization, it will become very confusing. It will become very aggressive. It will become very whatever the hindrance take over. Dullness, or just don't understand what's being talked about, or any of that matters. And we're starting with this kind of, okay, now I see how I'm constantly generating meaning out of all these contexts, like the painting just reveal, and I can feel pleasantly surprised by it, or vehemently trying to deny that, or trying to push it away. No, that's not Lincoln. Ah. So then the second exercise, then, how do we go from all the ways of something so abstract to these things? Because like when we begin with this is looking like, okay, that's a boy and he's reading and all this, right? But a lot of times our experience is more nebulous than that. So I wanted to take us to the second activity. Oh, before that, sorry. To break down how there is a fold from one element to the other to ground out our experience in through the sit, right? So first, when we now training together, when we started training together in week 1, we focus on the earth element to ground and reassociate ourselves with our direct experience, to focus on the lucidity of it, really not even focus, right? Just being aware. The instruction will just sit down, be aware, and see how you are constantly distracted. So the lucidity is dimmed, and then we got snapped out of it, dim and got snapped out of it. But if we can stabilize this, then the experience, the feelings, the qualia, all the sensation increase in its richness, have more resolution to it. And how then we can starting to apply our attention on a very particular thing. That could be our physical posture. That could be our mental attitude of how I want to continue to stay open in contact. So then we accomplish this foundational lucidity. We can just sit and don't like fidget or want to move away and try and distract ourselves from our own experience in that way. And then we got the water. How then from the lucid experience can we be within the stream, the push and pull, the currents of all the different desires that it want to flow this way, it doesn't want to flow that way. It kind of like being like this jack formation, this jack forms of like doesn't want to stay, nor does it want to go, and we just feel uncomfortable. In that moment, can we still let all those forms flow or not flowing, right? Flow or not flow, doesn't matter. Just let the forms do its thing. Just let desire self-express himself. Not necessarily that we go like wacko and like move our bodies around or immediately stop the meditation to indulge in some emotion in that way. But we recognize that, oh, with the basis of the earth, of that stability and contact, I can let the forms flow without breaking that posture. And the desire can flux through. And we're starting to see directly what we mean by the channels are opening up. And suddenly that there's different contortion in your chest, and you know it's not your physical chest, and it starts to opens up. And suddenly now the clarity, the stability deepens. You just gather those desire.
Yeah, it's like even that view, that screen, it also flows actually. If you think a view is kind of like abstract, but it's actually quite organic that it flows. But I think the key is to let do the looking without you looking.
Yeah. Yeah. So in week 2, there is suggestion from like Frank to like, hey, can you just wake up as the nimitta and not jolt yourself out of the stream? Just be with it. And then we're starting to train all this kind of way of being intimate, right? So then we can sustain this attention, just being with it. Instead of you have to jolt out, reapply the attention, and then stay with it. Can you just stay with it long, smooth, slow in the first place? Like we were talking about in week 2 debrief, and staying with all those range of emotion, which previously maybe you didn't want to feel, and now you can actually systematically flip this narrative of, oh, strong negative emotions doesn't have to be discarded. I don't always have to feel good. Actually, the range of emotion, like the thing that Frank has been talking about, like partying in hell without suffering, could be very interesting. There could be a way to enjoy my anger. There could be a way to enjoy my despair, my misery. And then we can see that, oh, it's a fitness matter. It's a problem with fitness. In some moments I can do it. Most of the time I can't do it. So it's not only that we're getting distracted all the time, but also we don't have the fitness to stay attentive.
That's cool.
So then week 1 and week 2 is the foundational basis that we build week 3 on. From lucid experience to being with the stream. Now the stream has meanings. Now all the different stream of meanings starting to flow with that. All the becoming of how we making sense of what's going on. Why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? What's going on? What's going on? A lot of that just automatically fire from that. And from the contact, the forms flow to the point of formation of these structures that we call reality, structures of meaning. And from applying attention, sustaining that attention, now you just stay in that stream. And that stream now become contention because now there's these different potential friction. That's why I guess like staying with the air element can sometimes be very triggering, confusing, or like just get pissed off for no reason, or just becoming angry or like frustrated. This is contention, right? It's this equilibrium, like the feeling of your ground of reality being removed. So you have to contend with it. What's going on now? What's going to happen now? Like that sense, like, can you not go into fight, flight, fawn, or freeze and just stay with it, continue with it, continue to let the attention, intention, contention cycle continue to flow, continue to flow, continue to flow. Now that's also a fitness matter.
Where I understand the whole intention and attention thing, because it's kind of like attention and intention, they kind of co-rise. Or if you have an intention, the attention goes there. If you pay attention, which can be trained actually, the interest can be trained. When you set up an intention, your attention follows, and then if you have the kind of the attention, the intention also reinforces the intention, and then contention. I'm a little confused about this contention thing, but I guess we can learn about that, right? We're gonna learn more about that, right? Yeah. Like, how do you contend? If you have a right intention and you have the attention that follows, then what do you do?
Yeah, I guess in some ways, like, oh, go ahead, Jace.
No, I was just going to say that in air, there is no how to contend. It's more like,
you just kind of let it flow. And then I guess in later stages, we learn about, I guess, the maneuvers to contend based on your intention. Or...
I
Well,
guess
a lot of these maneuvers that we talk about are what support leaving the kind of openness to allow contention, which I think one way you could look at contention is it's a part of discerning, a part of this process of discerning. And the longer that we can support this openness of contention, the more skillful our discernment becomes.
Okay. So the maneuver is actually kind of a discernment because there's so many different things that can distract you from your intention, right? Or attention.
Because when we're contending, right, we're holding, you could say, multiple perspectives. We're opening this view so that we're not proliferating and collapsing upon one ground, upon one view.
Yep. Yeah. One perspective, one point.
One perspective, right?
Yep.
And actually, we see that this view with a capital V that we keep talking about is having the fitness to remain in this openness of this unending discernment.
Oh, okay. I think we talked about that last cohort. Me and Taylor we're trying to work this out, and then it's like there's actually two ways you can look at this: ultimately and relatively, which ultimately is not separate. But the ultimate contentment is like it set the intention to realize the nature of mind. But then after you realize the nature of mind, I think it gets even more tricky because now you still have to deal with on the relative level, relative contentions. Do I want to be a stripper or do I want to meditate? How do you even know which one you want? Even after realizing your
I-
nature of mind. But then do you just kind of like,
Okay.
I don't know. Well, I think that's another topic. But that's
I,
I'm kind of
I
contending
think
with
it's
that
more
right now,
like
actually.
I think
That's
it's
actually I'm
more
contending
like
with.
there is the discernment actually all carries an energy. It's like that there is a certain energetic trajectory where it's trying to push you towards birth actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to be able to stay in contention, you actually have to have certain form of fitness and assertion to kind of not go with that trajectory, but like
Yeah.
kind of just hold back and just be before birth.
Yeah,
you
like
know?
the ongoing marshmallow test, right? It's like, I want this thing, I want this perspective. Like, no,
But
yeah. Wait a minute. After a while, the digestion of the affliction would end. You would have multiple perspective. Things would open up. But like before that, like, oh, I want this marshmallow now.
Yeah. The thing is, though, if you already have a certain intention that you set, isn't it more distracting to open up all these different other lines of meanings?
No, I wouldn't say so because the intention isn't captured by any specific point of view, right? The intention is just a direction.
Hmm.
So actually, the natural thing is that the becoming we're starting to take on own potential perspectives. Because that's what naturally how we problem solve. It's like, what about this thing? What about that thing? It just connect the dots automatically. So it's unnatural for us to resist that process. But after whatever the level of saturation, that's the term when all the themes, all the perspectives have reached saturation, meaning no new perspective is relevant, then the process automatically end. And that's how we fully cooked conceptual obscuration. You just see, hold it, looking for all the most relevant perspectives. Because like some other perspective would just be irrelevant. It would be waste time to like try to bring that thing over here. But just whatever this thing here, right? Staying in contention, just looking from different perspective, blah, 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 until the point that it reveal itself to be whatever that is not. Break from the previous conception. Like a clean
But
cut.
that presupposes you have pure intentions, though. If you have pure intention, you know that, and it's easy discernment. If you don't have pure intention, then it's difficult, I think, to know.
Yeah, of
Like,
course. That's why I'm saying this is a fitness matter, right? Like we have the intention, but we don't have the fitness to make that intention pure. So then we don't fall into
I'm saying that's if you already have the pure intention. That's the case. But if you don't even know what pure intention is, what do you do? I'm
yeah.
asking that for myself. For like, I don't know.
I think pedagogically
Just
speaking,
in general.
if we emphasize on this sense of pure intention and you don't even know what a pure intention is, it just make acolytes fall into a trap of like shit, I just don't have it. So how do I even develop it in the first place? But I was saying that just the intention, whatever the level that you can intend right now is pure enough. So then the fitness is to stay with that ongoingly and as let it reveal and clarify itself.
Okay.
Because otherwise you make it
fitness,
into a thing of like either you got it or you don't, and then it's just not.
or is it pure or it's not pure? Even that's
Yeah.
like a kind of a split. So I guess in a way we all have pure intentions, but is the training is to
As
uncover
pure as
that
it
pure
gets.
intention. Yeah, and to purify it. That's a fitness, actually. Yeah, to purify it over and over.
which is
Even
why
the
we're in
impure
CC.
intentions, yeah, even the impure intention, like being a stripper, is still aligned to truth in a sense, but because it's obscure. So even if you become a stripper, you can do so in a way where it's, I guess, more or less
It's
pure
not
on
letting
some
go
level.
of this stripper thing, but okay. Sure.
But okay, maybe activities number 2. Before that, Taylor, you have anything to share?
I had a comment I wanted to make, but I forgot. If it comes back to me, I'll bring it up.
All right, got it. So then, activity number 2, let's look at some lines. Let's do some lines here. Are these happy lines or angry lines? What do you guys think? Maybe we can do some quick in the chat. Neither, frustrated, angry, both. Okay. high energy. Anybody else? Share your perspective on whether these lines are happy or angry. Agitation, happy. And now angry. Okay, interesting. Just a signature. Lines don't feel. Oh, interesting. Molding. Yeah.
Now, the people are just trying to be like unique or like just
People trying to be deep,
yeah.
sophisticated. Mm.
Want to sound
They're
edgy.
not
Don't want to be cringe. That's the number one fear of like teenagers, like nowadays, or Gen Z people. They just don't create anything because they don't want to be cringe. That's why they just. I
So
heard in
this
a
process is
radio
particularly
show.
interesting, right? How did we come to these assessment? These are lines. Like it just, but then we can see meaning out of these abstract lines, so-called abstract lines. Like previously we have like these very easy to fabricate, right? Like, oh, that's a boy reading under like this time period, so it's probably have this meaning. But this is just like just lines, just signs, just nimitta. And we can have feelings towards it. And we can have further conception upon it. Like, oh, these are dancing, these are angry.
Even if you don't see any meaning, and then there's immediately the fabrication of like, hey, I don't see any meaning. And then you feel better about yourself because you're deeper than people who still think there has fucking meaning or like
Yeah,
happiness.
and I would say actually it's also natural for all these different interpretations to come out, right? Just like you think whatever. But then now, like some spiritual response would go like, oh, I have to stop that because that's fabrication. So I'm going to fabricate
You're
them.
fabricating about having no fabrication. Yeah, yeah, exactly.
So I actually don't even see lines.
I don't see lines. I'm so deep. I see through all the fabrications, bro.
Yeah. So then we see that, oh, then not only that you are automatically generating fabrication energy on this, you're also generating extra fabrication on top of it. No wonder it's so tiring. All the time, like just fabrication, like, oh no, I gotta get out of fabrication. Therefore, this is not fabrication. I'm fabricating an unfabricated right now. And we do this all the time as well. Now we're just going straight from this that line to now this line. Which lines are strong and which lines are weak? Now the lines can also compare with each other.
I don't understand why they don't teach you this at school, man. Like even like middle school people can get a lot of this stuff.
Now we're gonna take over middle school soon. Get the bootcamp right, and then we're starting to
get them all
populate
fucking Nike sweaters, kid size, a little cheaper.
the strongest line is straight, team say.
Yeah, strongest line straight. First two are the strongest. Like in some ways, when we see this process happening live, like it's kind of nuts, right? When we're looking at this, it's like this one is strong, this one is weak. And we're just seeing like wiggly and like this straight. I'm like, oh, that's stronger. Like what does strength even mean here? But like we don't even know, right? We just have the language. We're just like, oh, it feels strong. This immediately like cognition, cognizing this, and the emotion, it just come together. It's just dance, like emotional obscuration and cognitive obscuration, and also emotional effect and cognitive effect come together. So it's like
any structural engineers is here.
Yeah, you can already start to see all the aggregation coming together just by like this exercise. This form, feeling, fabrication, perception.
Taylor said, this one right here looks like Tom.
But you see, the reference point doesn't even come from those lines, right? The reference point come from the question.
Yeah, so it comes from the question, it comes from your preconceived notions, and it comes from the material here, all dancing together to construct meaning.
Oh, that's what you guys mean by lines of meaning, lines of desire. Lines of desire turn to lines of meaning, and it's just like.
Yeah, they just dance with each other, right? So
Mm.
desire in that way is also have the cognitive function to it. That's why it has visuals, uh, potential pointing of interest, like it points in that way. But it's also have emotions, right? So desire is both affective and cognitive. It rolls on and it's generate becoming and generate the entire worldview. We just see right now how we can like without the sense of like going into nitty gritty of like what are strength, immediately we know kind of like, oh, I have an intuitive sense of that is strong and that is weak. We're not saying that the intuition is always correct or something like that, but just how that even comes about, how immediate it is, how easy it is
Yep.
to fabricate.
Yep. There's already a fabrication that's conditioned the way we perceive.
Yeah, our view is literally the intersection of all these different lines of like cause and conditioning. Some are desire, some are meaning, interpenetrating. And it's like a web. We just etch up this view, and then we can actually see all these lines if we have the yogic power. And you trace those lines, and then something opens up, and another thing opens up, another thing opens up.
So then a lot of times these perspectives or these point of feeling um, automatic fabricate. It can goes from, okay, one last thing before I say that more of that. Now it's coming together a little bit. Now this is a geometric painting. It's an actual art that is being exhibit in UMA, University of Michigan Modern Arts. From the exhibition called uh, Beyond Both Sides of the Line or something like that. Orderly, Leon said, falling. Frank said, spiral dynamics, focused. Christine says, toilet. Interesting. Pinwheel, megacarp. Empty grass. Curious. Pointy. Generic tech company logo. Okay, yeah, I can see that. Fresh. Yeah. So now, like, how are these meanings getting generated, right? It's just lines and some colors and some composition, and now you make you feel own kind of way. Your body literally react to this. Just that visual cue, and your body's mapping that visual cues. There is also a mental faculty that's producing these meanings, and they just dance with each other ongoingly. From something super abstract to like, this feels like a toilet. And previously, we never really teased out this dynamic of how these meanings, how these knowledges are being produced. Don't be a square, man. Yeah.
This is how AI works. When you tell them to generate like a title or something.
Yeah, maybe.
I know, right?
Mm.
It's just a very sophisticated gathering of these lines.
Yeah. So then not only that we are generating these impression, there's also another dynamics right now that is your interpretation of this painting here is dependent on how people are viewing it in this call as well. Some people are saying it's like a tech logo in that way, and you're like, yeah, I can kind of see that. And that informed and it impressed upon you another perspective. And all that sharing, so now there's also this aspect of, oh, meanings can also be a social construction. Like how it comes together
Yeah.
for us to view this painting is dependent
Yeah.
on how other people are viewing it right now. And that can mean either that if you don't, if you hang around people with interpretation in a particular way, you are drawn into that. And if that all
Yeah.
that interpretation is so-called samsaric, so-called fixated on one perspective, you get indoctrinated, just not like that. And therefore,
Is
of
that
course, you
part?
think there's a physical
Is
world
that
out
part of
there.
the?
Everybody is
Is
seeing
that
that.
part of the? Is that part of the other emptiness thing?
No,
Or
I
what
think
is
it's very simple
Is
of
there?
like just meaning is social.
Yeah.
Mm.
The context of viewing shapes the experience of viewing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but that it's like it's absolutely connected to how others, the others view things, and then that generate your view,
Right.
then the collective view generates the self view, and vice versa.
So that would be like the other dependent. relationship.
Other dependent, sorry. But
Yeah.
you think other emptiness also part of the other dependent kind of insight?
No, I think it's a different territories. I think so.
Mm. Okay.
Mm.
Actually, the other dependent here is the three natures of phenomena. And the nature of other dependent, we're saying that actually our meanings cannot stand alone, and it's otherly dependent. It depends on the meanings of other people. It depends on how you know language, and language depends on, well, other languages that come before, and yada da da da, and all these processes coming together. So right now, that means that we are also co-creating, co-constructing what this moment is about.
That's how the
And that
transmission
means,
works.
yeah, that means your selection of Sangha and the people you hang around with matters a lot. Because what if you just got shitty feedback the whole time? You're constructing meanings with people who don't see it. But if you continuously relate with beings that fundamentally see it, and you have a proper hearing attitude towards them, you want to hear them out, you want to let them cook in that way, then you also get the blessing. Instead of trying to like scrutinize, oh, why did he say that? I don't see that. It's just fighting that own like, oh, but like, if I see that he got the realization and he's seeing those things, I don't know, just gonna let it sit for a while. So then relationality becomes crucial in the way that we interpret and interact with our phenomena. Because otherwise, this process of abstract object becoming intimate would always fool us into separation, would always fool us into that point of contention that you don't want to let go of this conceit. But if all the instructors and the mentors in CC are generating, facilitating that view, transmitting the self-emptiness realization, and we're constantly interacting that, we are allowing all the abstract objects, all just this luminous, nebulous signs, meditation objects to become a storyline and to become an interaction without clinging to that at all. Then you can actually starting to mimic that routing and see it for yourself. That's the point of so much discussion. That's the point of so much conversations. That's the point that Mei Chang has been talking about. That's not a monologue. Like it's an actual transmission of reconstructing the way you even interpret and cognize reality. Yeah, so sometimes those words, sure, it has a conceptual meaning for you to understand about it, but also at times, other ways, the transmission can literally feel like a chiropractor just tweaking your karma.
Yeah, I think after a while, if you really know how to tune the transmissions, the words themselves and the texture of those words, which as pure sensation is, or the meaning of these words, it becomes inseparable.
Yeah.
Because like sometimes people have the split, right? It's like, oh my God, I'm trying to listen to what Mei Cheng was talking about. At the same time, I'm trying to receive the transmission. This is fundamental split between his words and transmission. But there's actually no, even like the sound and the ambient sound in the room is part of that transmission as well.
Yeah. Because similarly, like with our ability to look at the painting and start to reveal or see more meanings getting revealed, we can sonically and visually tune into the training and then let more and more meanings start to reveal. I know some of us are talking about like how the background started to become wiggly, or like the sense of being in the room starting to fade, and all those things, right? Like the intimate and the abstractness starting to weave together. Like it's both like very familiar and very strange, both very intimate, yet so also very, very novel, fresh. And this opening up of that experience, I guess that's sometimes what I call it mystical.
Yeah, that's why even like rappers, when they rap, it's like the intonation of their words makes the difference, a lot of the difference, the tonation of the words and the meaning. It's like how even when Mei Chen constructs, engineer his transmission, like there's sometimes he plays on the sounds. I said these kind of words in this way, that way, and how I edit my videos too. It's not just a word, and then there's like the imagery around it, you know, and what you bring to the table. That's part of the transmission.
Yeah.
Deep.
So yeah, how raw sensation can lead and become meanings and music. One side is just like these raw abstract lines, and the other side is like own this rich field of meaning. That's Napoleon the Empire, the emperor.
And then the meaning and the musings loops back into raw sensations.
Yeah. And just like even putting these two paintings together, just that also makes connections. Like, oh, can kind of see that. It's starting to maps on in like that way. But now also comes the dangers, because the dangers of hallucinations. Now you're starting to see meanings everywhere that is not there.
I think part of the fitness is to be able to just handle all this stuff without going insane. It's like the same thing as going to hell and handle afflictions without going insane. Because literally, like, I used to just go insane with like all these different ideas about like art, philosophy, and life, existence,
Yeah.
beauty.
So
Yeah. It's
So
crazy.
in this way, like sometime a lot of times when we're starting to break down meaning makings and what it is about, we people can get very conspiratorial, right? Like saying, oh,
Conspiratorial.
yeah, it was I see it. Oh, they're out to get me. In that way, trying to become
Same thing
paranoid.
with exactly the same thing as when people receive visions or empowerments, but they don't have the right
Yeah,
view. So immediately they collapse that view into like the cell view, and then fuck, I'm like,
I am Jesus. I saw it.
it's
Yeah. And all this way, like hallucination, like it's in this process of all this abstraction becoming musing, becoming this field of meanings. But if we don't exit it or like cool down from it or warm up to it, probably there's all this trapping of like you get residual effect. But now the view is all wonky. And essentially, like we were just saying about the other dependent nature, the first the first nature as well is the illusory nature. How that is you are seeing things that are not there. How it is like so many example, classically speaking, of the pointing out like the sense of self that you carry around is almost like a rose on the sky. Like how somehow you just see a rose on the sky. Like you know it's not there, but you are seeing it. So like there's just this cognitive obscuration to make you believe that I know it's not there, but I'm still seeing it. That's so interesting. And you don't see that you're fabricating that rose and pinning that. And it takes so much energy to maintain that illusion. But can we see it? Can we see this perspective of like, it's so certain that I am a self with all these narratives, so much of that clinging, grasping, that klesha, afflictive obscuration. I definitely am a self. Definitely a character here.
and then the character would just fabricate lines and lines of the way exactly the same way self is fabricated. Everything they look, it's like it's just compounds. You got civilization.
Yeah, which is we're also not dismissing that there's no function to those fabrications, right? Like we're saying it's very natural, but it's just to see clearly.
Yeah. When you see it clearly, exactly, it becomes a function. Just like when I was talking about how Mei Chen was saying how strong I was, but I was used to be identified with strength a lot. But now I just can express it more because it becomes a pure function instead of something that you own.
Yeah. But
Whatever
that
quality that you identify with. Yeah.
that presupposes that we must have the willingness to invalidate our presumption, right? Like the sense of being wrong, which we don't like, the sense of being stupid. But I just can't see it. But I know I'm wrong. Fuck, I'm so stupid. Like that sense, we don't want it. We don't like that. We don't like that feeling. But do we have the willingness to go there and develop that fitness of being comfortable with being wrong? And so we can see how yeah, the ability to see how it is, oh, based on certain perspective, this can definitely be a self. But moving from that perspective, no longer a self. Huh, what does that say about selfhood? Seems emergent, seems codependent. The context
Is there
codependent with the content, they dance together. But because of whatever reason, right, we don't want to feel certain emotions, don't want to see a certain things, we don't want it to be true. We just refuse to let this codependent process reveal itself. We literally resist our own realization all the time.
Yeah, that's why people like jump back and forth between different views, right? It's like, oh, should I see the sculpture or should I see the light? Should I see the sculpture or should I see the light? Can you see both in either?
Yeah.
And see how they codependent rise?
Yeah.
Can you be a
I think it
sub or
comes
no
to a
sub at the
point
same time?
where I think it
There,
just
but not
comes to
there,
a
but-
point if you keep seeing that and you keep holding, allowing your views to
to
kind of
shapeshift.
be to shapeshift, and that actually there is never a need to then
Yep.
so-called be right or wrong or
Yeah.
or affirm or invalidate in that sense.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be there or not there. Mm.
Yeah, and this willingness to invalidate our presumption, I think no story highlights this better of the story that when Siddhartha Gautama dropped the ball, like the ultimate failure of his life, that moment. There's a very particular point, very important point that I think similarly, as a cohort, we are reaching the point of criticality from phase 1 moving to phase 2, week 3 moving to week 4. All the common elements has been introduced so that we can sit down, examine our feelings, examine our emotions, examine our meaning-making process to realize we are wrong. Therefore, we can break through our own illusions. But how did this guy do it? Like, it's important to notice that at this point of Siddhartha Gautama, he's not a Buddha. He's just a man. Sure, he's not any regular man, but it's not the awakened one, the blessed one yet. So it's important to keep this in context of like, nothing is guaranteed for him at that point. And what point am I talking about? Right. It's the point of him moving beyond asceticism, moving beyond fasting, training his will to crush his own will, moving beyond that point. Before that, right? How does it arrive at that point? How does it arrive at that perspective? And to drop that ball, to admit defeat, admit that he's fundamentally wrong, that admit that his project of awakening has been futile. Well, first, before he becomes this Buddha, all-knowing omniscience and defeating the Maras, before that point, right? Before when the story, everybody knows of how it goes. But the point when he dropped the ball, he didn't know there's going to be this case. He would just, well, I think I'm just dead wrong about everything. Everything. Because his story begins that there was a prophesied child, and he either going to become like a Chakravartin, universal ruler, like the kind of emperor that a lot of Chinese emperor were. That's a separate matters, but essentially becoming the interlocutor between the heavenly orders and the earthly affairs, becoming one of that, or become the sage that's going to break through. Of course, his father, who was a king at that time, wants him to be the Chakravarti, wants him to be the universal ruler. So whenever there is all these kind of talent of a contemplative that shows up, the father would like suppress it. Like, no, Siddhartha, don't do that. Like, go here, enjoy these women. And any kind of like suffering that can prone someone to seek the path was removed from Siddhartha's life. He dressed the finest, dined with the best and brightest, all those things. For the majority, not the majority, for like, what, 26 years of his life or something like that, before he even leave the palace and actually see what's actually going on and red pill himself. So one side, he's this invincible prince that is surely is going to be like one of the finest rulers the region has ever seen. And the other side, he's starting to get suspicious. He's starting to recognize that, am I in a Truman show? What's going on? You got to get out of here. And once he get out, he's starting to see that, oh, the life that I've been living is a very, very well manicured life, very, very well fabricated. But there's also other stuff that's going on that challenge his worldview, that essentially cause him to feel what's known as disequilibrium. Your perspective now doesn't hold up to new data, new phenomena. Now you feel like this discomfort of like just being confused. oh, there's sick people and all these like sickness that rolls around. It's not just beautiful woman, fine dining, this heavenly kind of experience while living on earth. No, there's people suffering. There's dying. People are dying. Oh, I'm also gonna die. There's all that sense that's coming to him. So now he has to contend with this. So what's really going on? And that sage instinct in him activated, and it's just one or two times of seeing these affairs that he got it. I must do something about this. And it's arousal, this, I guess, insatiable desire to figure it out for him, to sort it out. So then that begins this process of painfully cutting the attachment he has with his life. Like it was not an easy choice for him to, just at that moment of aspiration rose, his his wife, the princess, also bears him a son. So it pains him to walk away from that. It's significant. Like look at the painting, right? Like the depiction of somebody who's have to do what he needs to do, but he doesn't enjoy it at all. But he has to make that commitment, like give up on the life in the palace, give up on the earthly glory and all these kind of like certain victories that he's going to have in that way, and move on to a trajectory of total uncertainty. Total uncertainty. I don't know. Deciding to have to go to cemetery to like make clothing. He decided to disguise himself and actually cut his hair, join all the yogic practice at the time. And I think for about some time, he's starting to get all this realization of what it means for consciousness to watch itself, what it means to go beyond your perception. But then he sees that, okay, but those are just abiding states that you can go there and absorb into that, sure. But what about life as is right now? Then he sees how there seems to be an entropic force that always make my will deviate, that always make my will all over the place. What if I can unify this will, strengthen my determination so much that I will never break my own will?
Yeah, that's how he led him to the ascetic route, right? And then he
Yep.
realizes that he has to renounce from renunciation. But then, even when you say he dropped the ball and then he had made the ultimate failure, as ultimately wrong, that's precisely part of why he became a Buddha.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that he
So
has
is this.
renounced on his renunciation yet. I would say that at that moment he's really decided to become a renunciate, like true renunciate. Because previously when he was in this kind of meditation school, yes, sure, it's like somewhat more niche, less people are interested in it, but he was still celebrated as like the next in line to whatever communities he go into, like, oh, you're gonna be the next one to teach us everything. But he's just like, no, this is not what I want. So he goes from all this elaboration in the palace and in this yogi community to like living pretty much just like with just five other like David Goggins at the time, just extreme guys who just doing whatever, just like let's see it through. That was his brother. That was the people that accompanied him for 5 years.
Yeah, I mean,
that
when he
was
made the
Goggins'
move of
training.
renounce from renunciation, when he was almost dying, right? When he renounced so
Yeah, but
much that he
we're not
could
to that point
die.
yet. Like we're not to that point.
Yeah. Sorry, I was looking. I was referring to the last picture. Sorry.
Yeah, but it's important that we slow down this process of his life so we can actually see what is the critical point of that decision, that contention. Because at this point, it's like, all right, nobody in this kind of Joey communities, even the so-called esoteric people, they don't know the answer. I got to figure out, and I must be the frontier. And there's also these other 5 brothers that also feel the same way like him. And they are the frontiers, like the most hardcore of its time to figure this out. But even then, at that point, right, like doing that for 5 years, just slowly dropping weight, dropping food consumption, slowly, and have the ability to still maintain his life force just on barely any fuel. Like that's how strong he was. Just like an unbreakable will in that way. And even then comes the moment of
so cool. That's crazy.
On the stream, like walking across a river, the moment of unbreakable will meets an immovable obstacles. He literally sees he's right at the gate of death. Like there's some story that says his field of vision literally opens up and he can see that, oh, I will just die right now if I don't make a different decision. If I try to hold on just for 1 more second, I'll just die right now. Because his ability to hold samadhi from all the ascetic training was so strong that he can see it so clearly. that I am just gonna die. Like this is gonna be a dead end. And then I'll reset this life, become the next one, and then on and on and on I go. So at that moment, he got to make a decision to change life. So that means this last 5 years of being on the frontier is also futile. That moment, who's renounced everything from his life in the palace, his wife, his child, who he wants to do this thing for them, right? He has an intention of, I want to come back and give them the true blessing. He just failed. And not only that, now he's also make a decision of like, oh, so this also means that these 5 brothers who I've been hanging out for 5 years and building this camaraderie with, I'm also going to let them down because I'm also going to stop doing this. I can't continue. So he's just become like cancel on every front. No more friends, no more treasure to be revealed. So it's like, just think a little bit about the context, right? This man lost everything, everything.
Man,
No
that's like Kanye
wisdom.
West, bro. He's trying to be
No
the most
wisdom.
canceled man ever.
Yeah. At that
Yeah.
point, essentially, no companion to share anything, no wisdom to bring back, own this thing for nothing.
Do you know what I really like when that picture of him just hanging out with the fringes, like they're just like fucking starving themselves, like just a little group, like the marginal fitness of society. Kind of
Yeah.
remind me of Skid Row, like Skid Row. Right? I love it. It's like they're just on heroin, like living in the crack house. Right.
So at that moment, he just realized that, okay, damn, I'm just wrong about the entire thing. And I don't have anywhere or anyone to turn to anymore. At that moment, how many of us can really like are strong enough to resist that despair? Like just utter despair, just utter failure, fail everything. But not Siddhartha, right? So sitting in this utter this equilibrium, he's still open. He still remain open. He's still like taking the food, taking the suggestion to eat from a local girl. And at the time, right, like this aestheticism, this moment was the moment that the other brothers abandoned him. Like Siddhartha lost it. Like he just breaks everything. He doesn't care about us. He doesn't care about the mission. He doesn't care about the frontier, the quest. But he's still like, he knows that. Yes, he's still open. I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna like moves on. So there is that possibility of him admitting defeat, yet still remaining open. Total defeat, yet still remain open to new life input to him. I don't know, but most of us have not even getting to that point of utter disequilibrium. Like your entire reality just fall down. There's nowhere to go anymore. He went there in order to do what he did. But once again, at this moment, he doesn't know what's about to come. He just knows that he still remain open. He doesn't get and nowhere else to go, and he just sit down. And that's when it pop.
But all this presupposes that the Buddha found some ultimate truth, though. What if that's also wrong? Like, how do we know that for certain?
Well, see it for yourself.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. It's like, yeah, there's things that constantly you constantly self-invalidating, right? But then it's like it presupposes that there is an ultimate thing. That's why you say, oh, you're ultimately wrong. But how do you know you're ultimately right? But how do you, if I see for myself, if I can confirm it as clearly as I confirm the anatta realization, how do I know that's not wrong? That's a legit question, actually. Yeah. No matter how certain you are, how do you really know at the end of the day, like Buddha is actually like right? Like, how do we know my reincarnation is like I'm this and that? How do you know you're absolutely right?
Yeah.
I think it also depends on what you mean by knowing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If the knowing here is part of that fabrication concept making, then you know you're wrong.
How do you know if it's not? Then how do you know like, it's not a fabrication? How do you know that's ultimately right?
Well, because at the non-fabrication, non-conceptual, there's no right and wrong anymore. That's how it's right. Consequentially, it's right. Consequentially, it's go beyond conceptions.
Because you go beyond what's right and wrong, right and wrong, right?
Yeah, but it's not also like a concept in that way. Therefore, this is a fitness thing. It's not a yeah.
Mm.
Because like, yeah, I guess most people don't recognize the moment on the water for Siddhartha was that he has enough samadhi and fitness to see what's right, what's wrong very clearly. Just see the entire thing to be wrong.
I
He
think
doesn't know what's right yet. He just knows that he's dead wrong.
I think I was thinking about what Albert said is like, how do you know whether or not, let's just say you're making progress? Are you still suffering or not, right? So that, even though samsara is not ultimately real, when you're in it, it's real. And you know if you're suffering or not, actually.
Yeah.
But then what if you get to a point where you reach personal liberation, you're really not suffering anymore? And how do you know the journey onward and the views that you continue to even shapeshift? Like, how do you know? What if suffering stopped being a measuring stick?
Yeah. Yeah. We have different measuring sticks at that point.
Yeah, that's interesting. And maybe that's when it becomes all a game, right? Maybe, yeah. Like it depends on what kind of virtual reality, whole galaxy you want to construct.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Yeah, sure, Noel.
I was thinking about that because, like in the story about Siddhartha, him abandoning his child and his wife seems like the worst thing like a person can do. But he's doing it with this intention to realize, like, for all of humanity, how, like, the time scale of what you're creating and the effect on everyone like shifts as you start to realize, or if that's how, like, because I always think about how to judge something by its fruit, right? You know if something's good or not because you can see the result. But and then when you change the time scale, then it becomes really difficult to know because you might not see the result. So that's what I'm curious about, if that's like how you can make sense of what you're doing if you're right intended and you're having results or not, but you won't know maybe in for
Yeah, there's no
5
guarantee.
years or 10 years.
No
Yeah.
guarantee.
That,
That's why I was
that's
saying
actually
that
the stake is high. That's why that's why the fruit is gonna be great, right? Or like
there's no
whatever. The
guarantee
stake
for
itself is
Siddhartha in that
yeah.
way. He knows the direction, but there was no pathways. And then he started to try out different pathways, different teachings. And then he started to find the pathway that he can be like doing it on his own, just me and my will. And I'm going to dominate it. And he goes to the bitter end of that and just recognize that's also a dead end. So he's literally run out of any option and then he can rest there. He's in open contention forever.
Yeah, I just think like when I joined CC, I was very disequilibrated, like with despair, having done everything I could do to try and like help and heal everyone I can, and then feeling like ultimately it doesn't matter what I do, like I have no power. Things keep happening that are beyond my control. And how do you move from despair to whatever is after that? You know?
Yeah. I would say in that context, then you are at the point similar to Siddhartha when he was contemplating before moving out of the palace. He recognized that no matter how much of a good king I have, I can't overturn the suffering that is samsara. People will go sick and they will fall dead. Like they will just die. That's what happens. And everybody is scared and confused about this. So what's the way out? And he see that there must be a path towards power, like you said, right? I don't have the power to do something about this. He was in pursuit of power, ultimate power. And then it becomes the process of him actually training throughout that 7 years, actually training to get more and more powerful. That's why I was saying that people don't recognize at the moment, at the end of his asceticism training, he was extremely powerful.
He got so weak that he becomes all powerful. And I have the answer to my question. How do you know you're right? Because if you're powerful enough to crush those who think you're wrong, then you're right. The Siddhartha was actually training to be the ultimate power being.
Yeah. Yeah.
So much,
Because
but he has to have so much
yeah.
power. You also are completely weak. But most people can't be completely weak, so they can be completely powerful.
Yeah.
But at the Noel, at the moment of ultimate despair, you also know what isn't working. So to just stay doing what you've always been doing, then it's being stupid.
That's what Einstein said. I think we said that last week.
So
With
so
Frederick.
in a yeah. So in a
He's not here
in a
today.
way, there's just even here, just being with, which was what we have been talking a lot about, being with confusion or being with just resting, right? The idea of just resting with what we do not know, or for sure. And even that in itself is actually going against the pattern of always needing to know. So that in itself is the skill that actually is building up your power and building up your fitness.
Yeah, most people, if they truly don't know what's going on, they just freak out. Like they don't have power to decide what's going on. It's just constantly like, oh, I got to do something about this. Well, do you? Is that actually a problem? It's definitely a problem. Oh, yeah. In your lens, it is a problem.
Yeah, it's like they can't contend with the unknown, but the unknown has so much power in it. That's why people are scared. That's why the dark matter is like 99% of the universe.
Yeah, that's why, like, what is it? On yesterday's morning, so session 7C1, there was a little bit of description about dispositional shift for 7C. I think there are more materials, and we're also going to share that with everybody in CC.
Cafe said we talked a little bit about this position.
Yeah.
I learned a lot.
And then we are also talking about, like, a lot of times when we try to help other people around us, it's not a disposition, it's an impulse. We just can't stand seeing them in pain. So it's actually our lack of fitness that's not allowing other people around us to go through what they need to go through. And while having the discernment of timing our intervention correctly. Because we always fidget, no, don't cry, don't cry, please don't cry. If you cry, it will make me uncomfortable. I don't want to be uncomfortable, so can you just stop crying? You don't care about them in that way.
Yeah, it's almost like sometimes you help people to reaffirm your own view because you think those people are suffering because they actually don't conform to your own view of what not suffering is.
Yeah. So that become very tricky with this whole sympathy thing, right? How do we know? It becomes very tricky.
Yeah, that's the scary thing, because then what happens is you go from living your whole life trying to help other people to realizing that you can't, to then realizing, well, I should just pursue my own desire ultimately, which then what's after that? Then you feel like you're back to like, it's such a weird mind shift from, so I'm trying to become as powerful as I can through following my own desires. Naturally, I have to trust that instinct is correct. And then ultimately that I will use that for some kind of good. That's what I'm hearing, the direction.
It's then the training of virtue, right? It's like you have so much power, but then it matters what you use it for, then become consequential. Because if you don't have power and you say, I'm a good person, you're not even capable of doing bad. What are you talking about? Like if you're capable of doing heinous, monstrous things and you use it for the betterment of other people, then it's interesting. That's why, like, weakness is not a virtue. Like
But
being,
isn't like
that's why,
ultimate?
like,
Isn't when we talk about ultimate virtue, isn't it about going beyond like good and bad, right or wrong, or weak and strong?
yeah, but then you decide what is good in your case.
Yeah, you decide what is strong. That's what I just said. You decide what is good or bad, what is true or not, because you're powerful. But then
Because now,
guess
when we are not there at that level of fitness, we depend on an objective, external sense of good, and you're trying to follow it.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah,
this seems like to be the good thing, whether that is like from the scriptures, from your
Mm.
social contract. Everybody's saying that's a good thing, therefore I must follow. Mimes is like this force of like, oh, I must follow the herd. I don't have enough fitness to reject the herd. Or whatever that herd happens to be, right? It could be academia, it could be the industry standard, it could be on the friends and family, whatever that is. But we are strong enough to like, I decide my own path, and I'm courageous enough to follow through with the consequences. Because like we were saying, for Siddhartha, he goes to the end of that path and realizes he's dead wrong. So in this moment, for him, It's like he's already going to the other end of acquiring power. Then he just see, oh, okay, I even need to let this go. That is the point that he's renouncing the renunciation. For true renunciation, for true not getting anywhere, not trying to do, not trying to get to anywhere else but this moment.
Mhm.
And then just from this moment, staying open to life and decide what's good, decides what's not good, and act accordingly with that alignment of how my will, God's will, become thy will, aligned in that way. And right now, there's just this, like, I guess it's a cat and mouse game between our personalized will and there's this divine aspect to it. We're like, oh, am I aligned? Am I not aligned? Am I aligned? Am I not aligned? Yeah, but this moment, he's demonstrating that he's perfectly aligned. And then the fitness, the conditions for realizations is done. Yeah, so I kind of end the third activity with this question. How does Siddhartha, very important, not yet a Buddha at that moment, just rest? His just rest at that moment reflect on your own contemplative fitness. How much we can realistically actually do this. Well, I know for me, realistically, I can't do that much.
That's interesting. That's what Tyson said last time about how your level of rest or the quality of recognition is, especially rest, is a matter of fitness. It's like a PR at the gym. We think like rest is being something that's really beta and weak, but that's actually it's not, right? It's like the ultimate maneuver is rest, in a sense. Rest and recognize. But then the
So,
test becomes, can you rest within whatever life throws at you?
so for this point, hopefully that we don't have enough time for breakout room today, but I would like to now open the space for ongoing sharing now.
It will be a big breakout room.
Yeah. Does anyone want to share their impressions? Like Noel was just sharing about that point where the renunciation is starting to hit and how these territory have been for you. Oh, Massey, what I mean by territory is just this, I guess we can call it conceptual landscape or emotional landscape. It's like a terrain of all the kind of similar state. The territory of confusion, the territory of breakthrough, the territory of willing to give everything up.
And Juan is saying that rest and trust are correlated. I would agree, but I also think that rest can be practiced and trust can be cultivated. So in that way, it's not that you need one to have the other, but you can kind of systematically be practicing.
Anyone want to share their impression? Oh, Christine?
I just wanted to say that that's super powerful exercises, you know, very simple but very powerful. And I'm just seeing it everywhere now, everywhere, everything is an interpretation of what I'm seeing. And, you know, I was just thinking that maybe it's kind of like a good practice to do like in the morning, like everybody does their gratitude and they do this and they do that in the morning. Maybe it's a good idea to just like, you know, pick anything in your room and ask yourself, how am I interpreting this? Just so that you get that inquiry ball rolling for the day so that to awaken your awareness to that during your day.
Mm.
That could be a Sam Harris Waking Up app series.
Yeah. So yeah, really cool that you put that together, Con. That's awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm glad you like it. Yeah.
I love the title, Making Things Out of Thin Air. So, yeah.
It's literally what it is, right? It
Yeah,
says what
yeah.
happened.
Yeah.
Just suddenly we see meanings. So like, oh, where did it come from? Oh, I fabricated. Oh, how did that happen? Oh, this is a dance of all these emerging factors, co-arising together, and voila, meaning. And for that meanings, it runs my entire life.
Yo, you know that thing we did with Frederick yesterday where we just pin him down, the entire cohort was just like gangbang him? We should do that like every week. We just pick one person and we all just fucking come on his face. Make sure he fucking get the chick the next week or something, whatever your intention is.
Yeah.
Sad that Frederick is not here, otherwise we're going to pin him again.
He's doing ayahuasca right now.
Yeah, he'll be
Yeah,
here next week. Yeah.
He'll be here next week. Yeah, we'll see how that goes.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that, Juan.
I mean, even the meaning thing, like what I do, I actually actively think about what is not that thing, and then kind of like be able to sit very comfortably with it. Like I would look at a wall and be like, how do I know that like if I put my hand on it, it doesn't go through? Like, and then just be very comfortable with that kind of counter meanings. Like and so that whatever it's just being comfortable with whatever, right? The possibilities and cultivating openness. Miro has a question of like practice and cultivation. What do you guys think? I think I have a reason for saying that two words separately, but actually I don't have like a very precise thought around it.
Mm. I would say that it's simply that practice is the engaging, the methodology, whereas cultivation is referring to through the practice we generate conditions for growth and maturing and unfoldment, right? And so it's
Yeah.
through the cultivation of those conditions that the seemingly gradual transformation of being occurs.
Yeah, true
But the
that.
practice is the
So-
actual methodology and the engaging of that.
Yeah. So it's almost like if you keep practicing the resting in the unknown, resting in confusion, it's not like you're practicing trust, but then in that practice itself, that trust is cultivated.
Trust like a byproduct of it.
Yeah, you cultivate the conditions for clear seeing, and through cultivating those conditions, trust begins to sprout.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then trust then continues to feed back on the rest.
Yeah. That's why I think like the training we also mentioned about there is this emphasis on the accumulation or cultivation of merit and wisdom, how we stack insight and we stack so-called good deeds, like things that clear up karmic knots again and again so that there is ripening for our practice to even hit harder. And then it feeds on each other into a virtuous cycle. Like we have the wisdom of a breakthrough, we apply that into how we see of all the way that we are misaligned with what's going on. From that comes the corrective adjustment to our lifestyle, and from that comes even more conducive environment for the practice to go in subtler and subtler and subtler and subtler, and on and on and on they go.
So this is the meaning of merit, like the continuous refinement that brings forth more of these wholesome states and situations, whatever.
Yeah, I would say so. Even things like if we consider about it, one perspective to look at merit is even like how intelligent you are. How intelligent you are is a part of merit. We just have enough merit to be smart. But we can also see that there's a lot of smart people who waste their talent entirely. They don't make much out of it. Because they just systematically make the wrong move that just burn their merit away again and again and again and again, to the point that they have no more merit, even if they are talented, no more merit to sustain their practice. They just become disinterested for a while, or they make irreversible move that just can't be corrected in this life. Those things are very real.
So it does not ultimately depend on our own doing only. it's like also what we've been given, so to say.
Yeah, but if we see there's a stream of how karma forms, we can see that, oh, even the precious human birth I got this life was some predecessor back then did what they did so that I got this. That could be like the predecessor in terms of the blood lineage of like my father, my mother sacrificed themselves so I have this opportunity. That could be
Yeah.
the not the blood lineage, but the karmic lineage, which is your own previous incarnation, did what they did, achieve what they achieved, so that this life, the condition is more ripe for you to train. So in that way, we have a dual loyalty, both to the blood lineage and the karmic lineage.
Mhm.
And every one of us is like that. Now we have cases that we are born in certain environment that our parents, all the people around us have no interest in these topics, yet you do at a tremendous level. You can't explain it to them or to yourself even. Where did this come from? Why am I so interested in this? That could feel very like isolating and alienating growing up. But then we can see even like how, oh, that is incarnational strategy. Like from that kind of setup, where it's like out of the get-go, you're born, immediately you feel like you got to figure this out. You can't depend on other people. Like at the age of 5, you can start to question certain things about reality, and mommy, daddy don't have the answer. And you're like, oh shit. And you start the path. Or some people, if we are more conducive, we are born in a situation where it's asked a lot of us to rise to the standard because mommy and daddy are very like high level, and you better live up to it. And that forces us to grow in a different strategy. So then it's just like, what kind of card were we dealt when we were born, and how do we play that card? Because some of us have the card that is high intellect, some of us have the card that is like deep emotional range and can relate to others. Some of us have the card of like endless energy, just very, very, very energized. Different cards, and then lead to different gameplay.
We have some of those people here.
Thank you, Leon, for that.